What's going on, guys? We're back with another episode from the Gym Owner series. This is going to be a great video for any aspiring gym owner to hear what it's really like and how long it could take to find the right space for your gym. Before we get into it, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting. The channel is small, but it's definitely growing, and we're planning on getting more and more consistent with the Gym Owner series. So if that's something you're interested in, subscribe and let's get right into it. First step, you gotta know what location you wanna be in. Whether it's the place you grew up or whether it's hours away in an area close to a big city, the right location is gonna potentially make or break how your gym does. Definitely do a good bit of research beforehand and make sure wherever you're gonna set up, because you're gonna have to sign, 5-year, 7-year, 10-year lease, make sure it's the right space for you for the long term. Now we're gonna kind of get into a little bit more of the nitty gritty, which is finding a reliable commercial real estate broker. It's super important to make sure that you have the right team around you. And one of those people is gonna be whoever your commercial broker is. That person is incredibly important. From my first experience, which was finding the Contractor location, the real estate broker I used, he didn't provide much help to me at all. And obviously this was all very new to me when I was going through that process, but I found the Conchi space and basically just signed the deal. Like, there was no information or education provided on his end, which isn't necessarily his fault, maybe more so my own, but it was a great learning experience because the second time around when I moved on to a different commercial broker, he was able to help me significantly in finding more potential spaces. And then once we found the space that I really liked, he helped negotiate a construction period that was going to be helpful for us, free rent, tenant allowance. Tenant allowance is something that the landlord can provide you to help with the build out of the space. So with King of Prussia, we were able to get $150,000 to build the space out in order to have a gym here. So when you walk into a space and it's an empty shell, any bit of money is gonna go a long way. And again, if I would have still been with that first broker, maybe I don't get anything in this second deal. So you could literally see how I was able to save, even just from that one small aspect, $150,000. After you have somebody that's providing you these options, right? They should be able to provide multiple options. You wanna make sure that you visit 3, 4, 5 different spaces before even thinking about picking one to make a deal on. Just like anything else, right? You'll probably hear, if you're ever getting any type of work done, always get 3 quotes. That way you can get the best price and get the best person to do the job. This is obviously the same with finding any type of space. You want to look at multiple spaces because you're excited, right? You're going to be opening a gym. You're going to go to one spot and you're going to see the vision. But the next spot might be a lot better. And the spot after that could be even better. So again, make sure you're visiting at least 4 or 5 different locations. So another huge part of the process is making sure that you find the right GC, the general contractor that's going to be helping with the build out, pending that's something you need in the space. Most of you, if you walk into a space, you're going to need to build out something, right? Whether it's locker rooms, at least some offices, maybe a front desk. The list could go on, but it's very, very important to make sure that you get multiple quotes from multiple GCs. So when they come into the space, tell them what you want and they can provide you a quote. And these quotes can vary significantly. In the commercial space, they can be all over the place. So just to give you a short story, Warrington, one of the first GCs we had come in, quoted it as like a $950,000, basically $1 million build out. Whereas another GC came in and was able to do it for around $550, literally almost cutting that build out cost in half, which saved us potentially $500,000. From here, this is where you also want to start to negotiate some of the lease terms with those landlords. All landlords are going to be a little different. Some of them are going to be able to work with you a lot more. Some of them are not going to want to work with you at all. They're going to want to as-is deal. As-is deal means whatever you walked into, that's what they want to sign the lease and give to you. Whereas you'll have other landlords who they want to work with you a lot. They want to figure out how to get you in there because obviously they want to fill the space. And sometimes they're willing to give you a tenant allowance that can help cut that cost down on the build out significantly. For instance, with Warrington, we were able to get $9 a square foot. $9 a square foot turned into $190,000 that we received due to needing to build the space out because it was essentially just a shell space, meaning nothing was inside. So when we're building locker rooms, when we had to build offices, we added a mezzanine, all of the new electrical work, the HVAC work, $190,000 is a huge help. Whereas a space that we looked at prior, it was a good space, but it was an as-is deal. They didn't want to help. They didn't want to do any type of tenant allowance. It was a little cheaper rent-wise, but the upfront cost would have been significantly greater because there was no tenant allowance. There's a variety of lease terms that you're going to want to negotiate. You're going to want to know what type of term length that the landlord's looking for. Some of them are a little more flexible. You might be able to do a 3 to 5 year. Others, they're going to want 5+ years, 7, 10, something like that. You're also going to be looking at construction period length times, potential free rent length times, the little nitty-gritty stuff, which is, are you able to run events in your space? What type of parking is allocated to your space? So a lot of details that you want to get ahead of, and that would just be pre-lease. That would actually be the letter of intent. So the letter of intent is something that you'll do before you get into any type of lease. You need to agree with the landlord on those few key terms before they're willing to talk any further on the details of the lease. So once you've agreed to terms with the landlord, you have the letter of intent in hand. The letter of intent is not contractually binding. You will typically sign it, but that's just to kind of give the landlord the idea now, okay, let's push forward, let's get the lease drawn up. And then once you receive the lease, that is just the beginning. Now you're going to want to find a lawyer that can help negotiate and review this lease in the language that it's going to be written, which is most of the times very confusing. They can be 40, 50 pages long. So you're going to want to get professional help, get a lawyer that can come in and, decipher that language and make sure there's nothing hidden in there that could come back to bite you down the road. Once you have a lawyer that's actually helping you with the lease, this is the fun part. This is where it becomes a bit of a waiting game. It's somewhat out of your hands. And if you've ever had any type of legal help, you probably understand that it takes a while, right? A lawyer might get a lease. It's going to take them a week to review at the very minimum. Then you send it back to the landlord. They're going to want to look at it with their legal team, and they're going to mark up the lease, and that's going to take another week. Then they're going to send it back to you, and you can see how this process can go back and forth for quite some time. Looking at, again, Warrington as example, because it's the freshest on my mind. The back and forth in order to finalize the lease was at least 2 to 3 months. And that's just because of how long it takes to kind of go back and forth and really fine-tune the lease so it obviously makes sense for both sides. So once you sign the lease, now the real fun begins. Now you get to actually jump into building your gym, which we will get into in another episode. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, especially any current or aspiring gym owners. We're going to have this whole gym owner series that's going to provide you guys with a ton of informative content, trying to be very transparent and make sure we can provide you guys the info that you don't hear from anyone else out there. So subscribe, like the video, ring the notifications bell, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.